What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review. It's our weekly show where we review the magic stories as they're posted on Wizard's website. And this week, we are back with more core 2019 stories, and we are reviewing the Chronicle of Bolas, A Familiar Stranger. Once again, by Kate Elliott. Let's obviously talk about it for a second. We are back to our roots here with an episode of JaAR. It is something that we've done twice before. The first ever JaAR was a JaAR, and then we had our friends Dave and Schnoz with us to do another one during the Shadows of Innistrad or Eldritch Moon stories. So, but we're back. Amy and I have an appointment that we are trying to get to, so I am actually driving. I have made some driving videos previously, but yeah. That's neither here nor there. My quick review at the beginning for this story is, this one was very good. Very, very good. It was a little long, and that very well may have been because Amy and I were attempting to get ready for our meeting and trying to go out. So, realize...
So it felt super long?
Yeah, realize our bias in that, but it felt very long. Maybe if we were just sitting in the filming area like we usually do, getting ready to film and reading the stories, maybe we would have felt differently. But for this one, yeah, it felt quite long, but it was very good. There were never any... I felt like... Well, sorry. That's the... Now we're getting into the full review. So I would say that's my quick review, is that it's very good. I would highly encourage you to go check it out. The link to that is down in the description below if you have not read the story yet and would like to before getting into the review itself, because as we always say, we review and we don't summarize. But Amy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to seem like I wasn't asking you. What about your quick review?
I was just waiting for the question.
I know.
I would say that it's pretty... I would say that it's so good, it's almost as good as the stories used to be before they switched to one author instead of the story team.
Okay. It was very good. It really was.
It felt like we were back then. It felt like we were home.
Good.
With this story.
I like that. I don't wholly agree, but I don't disagree at all. Okay. So if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that's our quick review. Like I said,
feel like if you don't wholly agree, you somewhat disagree. I'm sure you'll explain.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so yeah, let us know. If you go check it out. The link, like I said, to the story is in the description. So please feel free to do that. And then on to the full review itself. Yeah, there was so much imagery in this one.
That's
so much.
Yeah.
To the point where in the beginning, when we were just with Yasova and Naiva and Baishia and the rest of the clan, it felt a little bit much to me, where they were describing like the entirety of the spirit dragon area and Ugin's grave and all that. It felt like a little bit much, but I think that tone of describing everything continued so well throughout the rest of the story when we were in areas that we weren't familiar with, that it worked. It made sense more so than, or the fact that it hadn't been done as much in prior stories made sense in this instance to me. Right.
I think that's a good point. I think if they had made that part less descriptive, the story would have been unbalanced. It would have felt like, oh, there's lots of description in one half and none at all in the other half.
Yeah.
So I think it was nicely balanced throughout.
Yeah.
In terms of how much description and just thick, rich imagery they used.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen so much in these stories, and we've talked about them in past reviews for, Core Set 2019 stories, of parallels between the flashback stories of the dragons themselves and the stories on Tarkir with the, Naiva, the other twins, Naiva and Baishia. And there have been such parallels, and this one kind of took it above and beyond, but it was really because, this story, it's 6 of 8 this week, and it felt like, this was the big one, right? This was the culminating point with everything.
The climax is just about to occur.
Yeah, it was great. God, there's so much but it's just all, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed this one, personally. And as always, if maybe you really didn't enjoy this one, like you enjoyed some others, but you really didn't like this one, let us know. Let us know why in the comments, as always. Or if you liked it, if you agree with us, as always, let us know. But, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Again, I'll say it was a balanced story, but I'll say that comparing it to the stories from the last set, I'll say that when we read the Dominaria stories, we kind of felt like it took a really, really, really long time for the climax to happen. We were sitting there going, come on, guys, like, it's getting late in the number of stories that you're supposedly going to have here, and nothing's really happened yet. So I feel like this one is reaching its peak at just the right time. Does that make sense?
It does. See, the interesting thing is, I agree. We said it many times, so it's not news if you watched those, but that was because it took until like episode 10 or 11 of 12 for it to really start ramping up. Now, and that was because it was like 2 or 3 before the end. This one is technically 2 or 3 before the end, but it's story 6 of 8.
Stories.
Yes.
Yes. So it makes more sense in the flow of, you know, if you recall that diagram that you learned in school of, you know, a rising action, a climax, a falling action, and a resolution.
Yep.
You know, that's it seems more like the timetable for this makes more sense to me.
I agree. No, I agree. I do.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, this story in particular, it allowed us to pick up where we left off, with Ugin at least, right? Because the last we knew, Ugin was attacked with that spell, disappeared in that puff of fire, which was really his spark igniting, which we knew at the time, and he planeswalked, and it seemed like he planeswalked to the meditation plane. Whether it's the exact same one that Bolas has used recently, like when talking to Vraska, I'm personally not sure. But he did. He kind of ended up in the meditation plane, or a meditation plane, similar to the space between planes in the Blind Eternities. And that's that was his hub almost when he traveled between worlds or planeswalked. And the girls went there. The twins went there. Neva and Batia seemed to have gone there when traveling underneath the Hedron, and it was their main hub in between memories that popped, right? We saw that same phrase used multiple times of, you know, the water seemed patient and waiting, and then an orb came and popped over the image of the girl or whatever. And so that's
kind of let us know that a new instance of time was what was being viewed at that particular moment,
which was so interesting to me, because they used in this story, and they have in the past, those lines that delineate passage of time or change in perspective, and they used those lines, but it was, you know, the line would come up and then it would say that line about, you know, and then an orb came down and popped, and then there would be another line, and then the next thing would start. You didn't need that line at all, or those words at all, that phrase, but it was such a nice touch.
Yeah.
It worked so well in
really
that space.
It added so much in your ability to picture what they were trying to describe.
Oh, yeah.
In a way that normally you can't necessarily.
Oh, yeah, and it took you there. It took us there nicely. So I appreciated that a lot. I liked the idea that meditation plane was Ugin's go-between, as well as in this protected area of the spirit dragon, it was also a place that, you know, the girls were in experiencing his memories as well.
Right.
I liked that quite a bit. This story was the first, I would say almost half of this story was with the clan, was with Yasova and the granddaughters, the twins, and it was a little haunting, to be honest, because there was so much like foreshadowing, I feel like, where it was like, you know, Yasova's like, this is it, this is the big one, it's really scary.
Right.
If I die, you know, this is going to happen and this. And I sat there, I wrote it in my notes, Amy mentioned it as well. We were like, well, Yasova's dead.
Right.
Like, it was just, it seemed really like that was what was going to happen.
Hey, you know, maybe by the end of these stories,
Right.
will.
It's definitely a possibility, but it was like so obvious to me in reading it that's what they were trying to get at. Was Yasova was like, it's my time's coming, like I'm gonna die,
Right.
and you girls need to be prepared for when I die, so there's not time anymore. You know, I'm sharing all these secrets with you because there's not time
Right.
for me to do it any longer. And so she's doing it now and showing the ceremonial garb for Baeshia and what she's going to be wearing, and she's happy for once, which or smiling, but she's also unsure of things, which scares Naeva a bit. So there were so many things that kind of indicated to us, like, this is different than anything else
Right.
that has ever happened. And so, you know, it's something that they wanted to make us aware of, which kind of clued you in before they even did the flashback of, this is a big one. This
Right.
is going to be, this is big, this is important, you know, eyes up, pay attention, you know. And it really did. I mean, the flashback itself, so cool, with Ugin like traveling between all the different planes, and we get the shout outs of, you know, Lorwyn and Innistrad and Zendikar and Chandalar, like, of him going to all these places and giving just that brief little description of the planes that he had visited and his opinions of them. I thought that was really neat, because those of us that know those planes know that, you know, like, you know, the moon-ridden Innistrad and the tumultuous Zendikar and all that, those were really cool. I appreciated that. There was something else that Amy and I noted kind of before turning the camera on, was that Ugin mentioned at one point, when talking to Nickel, actually, mentioned that he had visited hundreds or 100 worlds, which it's interesting because, I mean, it took him thousands of years to do that, which makes sense. But, you know, Nickel said, he's like, you've been gone for however many thousands of years. And Ugin was, you know, that we knew that Ugin was traveling between planes and checking them all out and stuff. And so that's how long he spent on each plane. I mean, even if it was hundreds, you can still consider the amount of time that it took him, that he spent on each plane, right? It was still something that he took the time, he traveled, and as the story said, he learned a lot of magic along the way, which is really cool, to indicate his abilities, and how he gained those abilities was from traveling world to world and learning about all this magic. So, I don't know, I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
What else? Anything else you wanted to cover? I feel like I've just been going point to point here.
No, I mean, I feel like we covered a lot of stuff.
There
wasn't a lot of different things in this story. It was a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again, but in the most refreshing of ways.
Yes. I really appreciated the interaction that Ugin had with Nickel when they came back together, where Nickel is being very foolish. I mean, very foolish. Where he's like, look, I did all of this for you. It's the world of peace that you wanted. And Ugin's like, this is peace? This is what you consider peace? And then Nickel's like, well, you hid. You're a coward. That's not what you were doing. It's always been about me. You were hiding from me. And Ugin's like, why is everything about you? Why do you think that everything's about you? And it was just, I love that. I loved that interaction because Nickel really, truly, seemingly, really, truly believed that what he was doing was justified and noble.
Yeah. And the way that they described it in the story was so perfect, because it really did give us a true picture of the space between. And I feel like I said this in another JaAR, that it was very difficult to see how to fill that gap between who Nickel, you know, baby Nickel used to be, and to Nicol Bolas, the dominator of worlds kind of
the one who we see at the end of the story.
Right. And so this was a great way to kind of bridge that gap and show he's evil, but in an understandable enough way that we're able to understand him.
Yeah.
We're able to understand why he does what he does,
yeah.
and who he really is deep down, and understand, because what was surprising though to me in that description was how often he said that he loved Ugin.
Yeah.
Because we really got a sense that he didn't love Ugin anymore by the end of the previous story, where he was manipulating Ugin and doing all of these just mischievous things, and it really made us feel like that love didn't truly exist.
Yeah.
But in this one, it kind of brought us back.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
In this one, it kind of brought us back to a point where we realized why he was doing those things over here, regardless of the fact that he actually did love Ugin.
Mm-hmm.
And now Ugin can understand it, but also understands that it's wrong,
right.
and that he can't love Nicol anymore, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Of it.
Right. And Ugin kind of made that clear, and even said, you used your mind tricks on me, and Nicol tried to explain it away and was like, oh, you only don't like it when it doesn't work for you or whatever. And it was like, oh, okay, when was that ever the case? But again,
because he didn't really explain to Ugin that he was manipulating people and things and whatever,
right.
to go their way.
Right.
He didn't really let Ugin in on that enough.
Yeah.
So that, because I'm sure if he had, Ugin would have been like, oh no, we can't do that. But because it was so convenient and helpful, Nicol thought that it was a good idea to do that.
Right. So, and then, like I said, then you come after that interaction, Ugin just gets pissed off and leaves, right? Planeswalks away, tries to explain planeswalking to Nicol, but
which of course he can't.
Right, and Nicol's not a planeswalker yet, so, we know that he becomes it, but Ugin doesn't. And so he disappears and gets pissed off and leaves, and then we get to the end of the story after the images and the dreams or whatever have gone away, and Naeva comes out and out from under the Hedron, leaving Beishia there, and Yasova goes in after Beishia to kind of try to find out what Ugin was trying to tell her, and says to Naeva, go. Don't get distracted, just go. Be with the rest of the group. Everybody else is probably dead, so just go into the special sacred chamber. Don't let anything distract you. And Naeva immediately gets distracted.
Yep.
Almost second. I feel like she didn't even walk.
Well,
she
and you talked about foreshadowing before. You talked about foreshadowing before. And one of the things that they were foreshadowing was that Naeva's focus on, well, I'm not loved as much as Beishia, and me, just like Nicol.
Yep.
And I was thinking as you were reading it, oh, that's foreshadowing, she's gonna screw it up for everybody.
Yep, I wrote it down because you felt that way.
But I think it was more foreshadowing in that she's gonna screw up, but I don't know. I think it was foreshadowing that she was gonna screw up, but not that it was foreshadowing that she was gonna alert dragons to their whereabouts, and I thought it was gonna be more malicious on purpose, instead of what it actually turned out to be, which is better. But that's even more of a way that it mirrors the Nicol Bolas issue, because we thought at the end of the last story that Nicol Bolas was malicious on purpose, and we kind of learn in this story that he really wasn't. He was just, again, trying to do what he thought was best for him and his twin.
Yeah.
And but in this one we get to see Naeva go, oh, let me just check on them one more time, even though, grandmother said not to because I'm really worried about them more than, well, I'm jealous, so I'll leave her down here, because we did see that thought.
Yep.
But we also had an inkling that she was being mind controlled.
Yes, because Beishia asked about her pupils, grandmother asked about her pupils, but I think the foreshadowing at the beginning was just to show you how susceptible she was to Nicol Bolas's influence because of the threads of jealousy and doubt and disloyalty that were already there that Bolas could manipulate in his way.
They were little threads that he could tug on.
Yep.
Right?
And enhance.
Right.
Yep.
And we saw that back when he first made the brothers fight with each other.
Yes.
That
Arcades Sabbath is guys.
Right. And we didn't necessarily notice it back then because we didn't necessarily know the jealousy that might have existed there.
Yep.
Because it wasn't fleshed out enough.
Right.
But I think it just goes to show, like, that piece does fit into this ultimate puzzle that we're now seeing of, if those threads of jealousy do exist, it's a springboard for him to mind control them.
Oh yeah.
And kind of just, like you said, enhance those thoughts.
Yeah. And so then it ends with, again, I mean, you talk about a climax. It ends with Nicol Bolas himself kind of peeling out of a pregnant woman. Which is
I loved the way they described that. It was so anime-esque.
Yeah.
It really gave me a picture of an anime.
Yeah.
When they described that, it was incredible.
It was also disgusting and horrifying. But yes, I loved it, right? I mean, it was great. And he only revealed himself because grandmother and Feck had kind of pointed out this isn't the person that we know it to be. But Naeva kind of, and it was a little weird because Naeva was kind of saying the same thing over and over and over again while being affected by Nicol, but she still just kept saying, "Who are you? You're not my kin. I'm not related to you." When the pregnant woman said, "Who is your family? Like, what is your name and who is your kin?" She said it without planning to say it, right. That kind of thing. So it kind of expressed it that way, and. Yeah, it was definitely interesting, but I liked the fact that she was still able to say how she felt. She wasn't completely controlled enough so that Bolas could reveal himself. And again, we heard it twice in this story, really, but Nicol gets to, or when Bolas reveals himself, she says seeing him makes it like Atarka was nothing. Right? Atarka is nothing compared to Nicol Bolas appearing in front of her like that. And now we'll have to see.
And I love the description of the rays of light and the rainbows and the the fact that
celebrating his arrival, it said.
And the fact that he made himself into the sun.
Mm-hmm. He blocked it out so much so that he shone, is what I think what it said. So cool.
And it was just, and the gem in between the horns. It was just great. It was just great.
And again, the imagery in this one, because I really don't think it was as prominent in the others, and I don't think Kate Elliott just developed a new writing style overnight. I think it was genuinely, it was
a build-up.
Yeah.
It was a purposeful build-up.
And I think, like I said, I think it was strategic in that way, where it started off being descriptive, it ended being descriptive, and you liked it, right? You didn't miss that. I wasn't troubled by it. As I mentioned at the top, I didn't think it was too long of a situation. So I appreciated that part of the story. I appreciated the entirety of the story. I thought it was so cool, all of it. So a little bit of a shorter episode, one, because we're traveling, but two, because it's just a really good story, and so we can just talk about why it's good, but hopefully you've read it for yourself. Hopefully you have your own opinions as to why it was good, and or, like we said, bad, if you dislike something.
If there's something that stood out to you as something that didn't feel good, leave that in the comments, too.
Let us know.
It didn't strike us, so we'd be interested to hear.
Absolutely. So, guys, this is going to close. I do want to say, before we close it out, that I want to thank all of you for or many of you, for watching last week's video. There was no Vorthos content, put out by Wizards last week, but we did have the opportunity to make a video anyway, and we got to, let off some steam a little bit and rant a bit. I think it was necessary based on the comments section. It seemed like many of you agreed with us, so thank you. We don't ask for you to agree with us. We ask for your opinions regardless, but thank you for making it seem like we're not just crazy people being like, this is dumb, and like everybody else is like, what the hell are they talking about?
Sharing your opinions, whether they're the same or differ.
Yeah, either way, really, really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm sure it'll pop up somewhere. We'll probably find some way to cover up our faces here because we don't have our usual backdrop. We should be back to it next week. Again, sometimes Wednesday appointments come up and we can't get away from it. So thank you guys so much. This has been another episode of JaAR here on Geek for All. Thank you for joining us as we both, in the car, showed off our...
#Vorthos Pride.
Thank you,
Feels
guys.
very weird using this hand for that.
Sorry. We did swap sides, didn't we?
Yes.
So yes, thank you guys so much. Check out those other videos, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know your thoughts and feelings below. I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, guys, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.